Yes. Okay, so first of all, we're learning how to factor a quadratic. This is different than greatest common factor. A greatest common factor is you look at all the terms of lot, anything in common. When we're factoring a quadratic, what makes it quadratic is its degree 2. The highest is degree 2. So a couple things. To factor a quadratic, first it has to be in standard form and set equal to 0. So everybody, do you see how this is in standard form? Standard form means the highest degree to the lowest degree. Everybody good? Now they're going to have the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is going to be, you've got to remember this, a is in front of x squared, b is in front of x, and c is our constant. And the first thing you're going to ask yourself is, does the quadratic have a greatest common factor? If the answer is yes, you'll factor that out first and then continue with these steps. So here are the step-by-step instructions. Look at your worksheet. You have them already written down for you for the most part. Yeah. Now these instructions are going to seem like, what the heck at first? You're going to be like, I am not really sure what you're talking about. But once you see a couple of examples, you'll see the steps. Okay, so everybody look at your paper. These are literally step-by-step instructions on how to factor a quadratic. First thing you do is put it in standard form and you're going to identify A, B, and C. A is in front of x squared, B is in front of x, and then C is our constant. Your second step is you're going to ask yourself, you'll set up a little chart type thing. You're going to ask yourself, what multiplies to be A times C? So you're actually going to take and multiply A times C. You're going to multiply those two together. What multiplies to be A times C and then adds up to be B. So what we're going to be doing is that listing out factors of A times C. Factors mean what multiply to be A times C. So we're going to list out 1 times 2 equals that, 3 times 3 equals that. You're going to list out all of the factors here. Then you're going to figure out which of those factors could add up to be B. Which two of them, if we put them and add them together, add up to be B. So then after you've decided, okay, I know my two factors, for example, let's say it was 5 and 6, for example, 5 and 6, and you're like, oh, those are my factors because 5 plus 6 add up to be like 11 or whatever. Your third step is you're going to do what I call drop and break. So what you do is you go down and you drop your n's terms down exactly as they are. So you drop down ax squared and you drop down c. And then you're breaking down your middle term. So you're rewriting bx as those two factors. So if it was 5 and 6, you put 5x, because they're x's, and 6x. So that's the break. So we drop down our n terms, and then we break down our middle term, writing it as the two factors, but with an x. Then fourth, now you have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So we would factor by grouping. You group the first 2 terms, you group the last 2 terms, and then fifth, you do what I call the final factor. So you focus on this group and factor out the greatest common factor. Then you focus on this group, factor out the greatest common factor. And then you check your safe haven, which in what's left in your parentheses should be the same. You'll see what I mean when we do examples. So you check your safe haven. Once you factor out what's in common here and here, what's left in your parentheses will be the exact same in both. If not, you factored wrong or used the wrong factors. So then once you have this thing in common, you can factor that out, and then you just have the product of 2 linear factors and you're done. So once you have degree 1, 2 linear factors being multiplied, you factored the quadratic. A lot of steps. So here's the thing. This is a lot more steps involved than anything we've done this year, but once you do it many times, it's just the same thing every time. Now here we go. Problem number 1. Flip through number 1. So we're just going to go through those steps. So we're factoring this quadratic. Now notice the first thing I look at is there's 3 terms, but notice there's nothing in common. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our first step. We're going to first make sure it's in standard form, which it is. Look, degree 2, degree 1, constant. So your first step is to identify A, B, and C. So A is in front of x squared, so isn't that a 1? You're going to have to ask questions, everybody. B is in front of the n, the 1 variable, so isn't that negative 1? Guys, ax squared plus bx plus c. That's what I'm looking at. Does everybody understand? And then our c value is negative. You've got to do the negatives, negative 42. We've done our first step, identifying a, b, and c. Now our second step is to set up our little chart, which is what multiplies to be A times by C and adds up to be B. Now I'm going to leave myself some room to write in here and in here. So we're going to literally do what multiplies to be A times C, so that's 1 times negative 42, which is what? So we're looking for what multiplies to be negative 42 and adds up to be B. B is negative 1, so put a negative 1 here. So then from there, what you're going to do is ignore negative 1 and just focus on 42. Also ignore the negative. We're just going to look at 42 for a second. We're going to list out anything that multiplies to be 42, and we're going to list them out in order so we don't miss anything. So take your calculators. So we know that 1 times 42 multiplies to be 42. Take your calculator and do 42 divided by 2. What do you get? 3. We're just dividing it by 2. We're going to list out anything that multiplies to be it. 20? 21. Very good. Now take your calculator and do 42 divided by 3. 14. Now do 42 divided by 4. What is it? You said, okay. I thought somebody said that 42 divided by 3 was 14. Perfect. So then now we're doing 4. Right? I'm looking at all the factors. Do you get what I'm doing here? Yep, so 42 divided by 4 is 10.5. We won't list out decimals. So that one's not a factor. Does that make sense? So let's move on. 42 divided by 5 is a decimal. 42 divided by 6. What is it? Okay, so 6 times 7. Now do 42 divided by 7, and isn't it 6? Yeah. So do you see we already have those listed? So we can stop because it's called it wraps back around, meaning you already have those listed, so you don't need to list them again. So we're done. We've listed out all the factors of 42. Now we're going to look and choose the factors that could possibly add up to be negative 1. Could 1 and 42, if we ever added those up, ever add up to be 1? No. If we subtracted 1, wouldn't that be 41, guys? Yeah. So it's not those. 2 and 21, could those ever possibly add up to be a 1? No. So it's not those. 3 and 14. No, if we take 14 and subtract 3, it's not 1. So it's not those. How about 6 and 7? Could those possibly add up to be 1? Yeah, and it needs to add up to be negative 1. So if we put a negative with 6, that wouldn't be right, correct? Negative 6 plus 7 would be positive 1. So we'd say, yeah, that could add up to be negative 1. We need to put the negative with the 7. Here's why. 6 plus negative 7 equals negative 1. Now let's check. You have to check. The positive 6 times negative 7 equals negative 42. Yes, guys, 6 times negative 7 is negative 42. So I put a check mark. And then also 6 plus negative 7 equals negative 1. So do you see our 2 check marks? That's how we know those are the factors we're going to use. 6 and negative 7. Now from there, you would do your next step, which is our third step, which is what I call drop and break. So I'm going to give myself some room. I always like to erase and give myself some room. So I would have wrote A, B, and C. Next time I'm going to write it off on the side. I'm going to use the original problem to do the drop and break. And I need to give myself some room. So if you don't mind me erasing like that much maybe. So we're to our third step, which is drop and break. So this is what you do. You drop down your n terms exactly like they are. So this is positive n squared, correct? This is negative 42. Now you break the middle term down. So we're rewriting negative 1n as these two factors, but they have to be n's. This is what a lot of people forget. Really we're trying to get it to be negative 1n. Does that make sense? So n, put an n on those and insert those in. Now we can put the 6 first or the negative 7 first. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You can do either one first. So I'm just going to randomly choose to put that's positive 6n, so plus 6n. And then negative 7n, so minus 7n. Any questions? Then from there, we're to the step where we say we have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So we factor by grouping. So you're going to put parentheses around the first 2 terms. You're going to put parentheses around the second 2 terms. And then you're going to factor and focus on each group. So what I'm going to do now is I can erase this because I need to keep going. So now you're going to factor each group. So let's focus on the first parentheses and ignore everything else. Just focusing on this piece, I even put little brackets so I can just keep my eyes focused. What's the greatest thing in common in those two terms? N, guys. So let's pull out an N. You got to write it. Pull out an N. So now go back and write what's left in your parentheses. So you would divide by N, divide by N. So N squared divided by N is N. And then positive 6N divided by N is positive 6, isn't it? Does everybody see? Now the next thing I'm going to do is focus on the next group. Now ignore all that stuff, ignore it. Focus on this group. What's the greatest thing in common? Doesn't 7 and 42 both divide by 7? Now if there's a negative in front, and only if it's in front, we have to pull out a negative with our factor. Remember that from the greatest common factor? So we're going to factor out negative 7. So then go back and divide each term by negative 7 to see what's left in your parentheses, just like we did with greatest common factor. So look, negative 7 divides by negative 7 and becomes N. You're right, 1 N, very good. Now careful here, negative 42 divided by negative 7 is positive 6. Now look at this. In our parentheses, it's called our safe haven. It has to be the exact same, not a different sign, nothing. Isn't it exactly the same? So we'd say, yay, we've factored it correctly, but we're not done. We're not going to do our final factor. Because remember, we practiced this, isn't there something in common in each of those? N plus 6. So your last step, you're almost done. This is literally the last step. Factor out N plus 6, just like we did on greatest common factor day. So we pulled it out. So then divide each term by N plus 6. Divide by N plus 6. So now what's left in our first term is those divide out. Left is N. Those divide out, and then left is minus 7. And we're done. Yep, that's what our answer is going to look like. Now here's why I know I'm done. Linear factor, linear factor. What do I mean by linear? It means degree 1, degree 1. Does everybody see that? Yeah. Pretty easy. I mean, not easy. It's not hard, but we can do it. There's a lot of steps. It's just going to take practice. Let's do another one, and then that's all you have to learn. So now you've learned how to factor. I can literally give you any quadratic in the world, and you can do it the same way. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to learn tricks. You just go for it. Okay, number 2. This one's actually easy. So you see how this one has x squared plus 7x? We could do it the hard way and say, well, multiplied to be a times c, but that would not be the smart way. Because your first step when factoring a quadratic is to say, is there something in common we can factor out of all terms? An x. So let's just factor this one the easy way. You see how this one just factors out an x? This is not a constant. So let's factor out an x. Pull out an x, so write it. So then divide by x, divide by x. So left here is x, right? Yeah. And then right here left is plus 7. And then don't we have degree 1, linear factors? So this one's done. We didn't have to do all those long steps because they had a greatest common factor already. Does that make sense, everyone? Yes.
So with the x plus 1.
No, we don't need to. We would only write this, x and x plus 7. I was just showing you that what I mean by we know we're done because that's degree 1 factor. We would just leave it like this because there's a secret one there, but we don't need to write it, right? Because anything gets. Reorder it. We can just put it in standard form. So that means just put this squared first, so switch them. Okay, let's do number 3. So notice this one's not an easy one. There's nothing in common. So we're going to have to go through our process here. So I'm going to go off to the side and write what A, B, and C is. So A is a? Nope. 1, guys. The A is just what's in front of x squared. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. A is 1, B is what's in front of n, so 14, and C is 48. We've done our first step. Second step is what multiplies to be A times C and adds up to be B. So you're going to take your A value, multiply it to your C value, and put it in. That's 48. Adds up to be B. B is 14. Everybody good? Now don't try to just figure it out. You're going to miss the factors. If you're not listing these out, you're not at the point where I'm allowing you to just say, I'm just going to try and guess. List all of them out right now. What multiplies to be 48? 1 times 48, 2 times 24. Take your calculator and do 48 divided by 3. It's a 16. 3 times 16, we need to keep going. 48 divided by 4 is 12. 4 times 12, 48 divided by 5, 9.6, so we won't list it. 48 divided by 6 is 8. 48 divided by 7, decimal. 48 divided by 8 is 6. Now, haven't we already listed those? Yeah. So that's when we know we're done. So let's figure out which ones could add up to be positive 14. 1 and 48 could never add up to be 14. 2 and 24? No. 16, 15, 14, 13, right? So that one's a no. You guys see what I'm doing? Yeah. How about 12, 11, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16? No there. Could those two add up to be 14? Yeah. So 6 plus 8 equals 14, check mark. Positive 6 and positive 8 equal 48. We have 2 check marks, so we know that those are our factors. So now we're going to drop and break. So it's going to get a little quicker. As you're noticing, we're even going much quicker. So I am going to drop my n terms down. So you drop exactly as they are. So we have n squared and positive 48. Then you break down your middle term. Now remember, this is really 14 n's. You got to put n's on those. Don't forget the n's. Good. So now we'll insert those in. Order doesn't matter, correct? So should we put 6n first? Sure. So then it's positive 6n, so you're right, plus 6n. It's positive 8n, so plus 8n. Now I'm going to erase so that, because this is kind of jumbling together. This is what we're looking at. Is everybody good? Yeah. Now we're at the part where there's 4 terms. So we factor by grouping. Group the first 2, group the second 2, including the sign. Then you just focus on it in sections. So you'd say, I'm going to just focus on this group right here. Factor out the greatest thing in common, which is n. Now go back and write what's left in your parentheses for that group. N plus 6, right? And then we would look at this next group and say, what's the greatest thing in common? Don't they both divide by 8? Positive 8, so go plus 8 because you're pulling out a positive 8. Then divide by 8, divide by 8. So then left in your parentheses is n plus 6. Now did we factor it right? Yes. Right here, our safe haven's the same. Look, n plus 6, so we did it right. Last step is factoring that out, so let's pull out n plus 6. So then we'll divide by n plus 6. Divide by n plus 6. So then what's left in this first term? N. What's left in this second term?
8.
Plus 8. Positive 8. And now look, we're done. Linear factor, linear factor. Good. Yeah, you just have to remember the steps, but literally you can factor any quadratic now. That's what's so nice. It's like you don't have to learn anything new. The harder we get, the same steps are the same. Yeah, do you need to do maybe one more? And then I'll let you just try it for you by yourself. Okay, one more. Here we go. So notice there's nothing in common here. So we have to do the long thing. So let's list out what A is. It's in front of x squared, 1. B is negative 3, and C is negative 40. Don't mess up on the signs because they make a difference. So then to this step, what multiplies to be A times C, what multiplies to be A times C, and adds up to be B. So 1 times negative 40 is negative 40. B is negative 3. Now, once again, I'm not allowing you to just do it in your head. List out all the factors of 40. That means what multiplies to be 40. If you don't know, take your calculator, do 40 divided by 2, 40 divided by 3, 40 divided by 4, 40 divided by 5. Just going till it like goes back around, you know what I mean? So now 40 divided by 6 is a decimal, 40 divided by 7 is a decimal, 40 divided by 8 is 5. We've already listed those, so we know we're done. Now let's pick which ones add up to be negative 3. Not those. Those can't. Those add up to be 6. Or, you know. But those can add up to be 3. But one of them would have to be negative. And it's negative 3. So negative 8. Now let's check. We got to make sure it's got to work in both cases. Is positive 5 times negative 8 negative 40? Yes. Positive times a negative is a negative. Right? And then positive 5 plus negative 8 is negative 3. So we have 2 check marks, so that means those are our factors. Now we're going to drop and break. Drop. So we drop down r squared. We drop down negative 40. Then we break down our middle term as those 2 factors, but you can't forget the r. See, look, this is really negative 3r. R. Order doesn't matter, so let's put plus 5r first. It doesn't matter, though. Minus 8r. And now you say, I have 4 terms. This is when I factor by grouping. Group the first 2, group the second 2. We always group the sign in too. Now focus on the first group. The greatest thing in common here is a r. So let's pull out an r. Put your parentheses, divide by r, divide by r. So left would be r plus 5. Was that too fast? No. Okay. And over here you say, what's the greatest thing in common? 8. And there's a negative in front. That means we have to factor out negative 8. So divide by negative 8, divide by negative 8. Left in your parentheses is a negative divided by negative is positive r. And negative 40 divided by negative 8 is positive 5. Check your safe haven. Are they the exact same? Yes, so we've done it right. So now factor out r plus 5. Divide by r plus 5, divide by r plus 5. So then left is r, left is negative 8. And we're done because we have linear factors being multiplied. Same thing every time. So what happens is if you get here, this is one last thing to say. If you get here and these aren't exactly the same, you'd say either a couple things happen. I picked the wrong factors, or I just made a mistake somewhere. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, awesome. So, with this one, number 5, this is the last, this is the last one. What should I do? Should I do this the long way or the easy way? Isn't there an A in common? So that's what we do, factor out A, divide by A, divide by A. So left would be what? 3? What else? Nope. Guys, 3? A squared divided by A is A. No, not A squared, right? And then those A's divide out minus 4. And aren't we done? Degree 1, degree 1. We're done. That was way quicker than doing it the long way. No, because they don't have greatest things in common. Okay. So what I want you to do is do 1, 2, 4, 8, and 9. So notice this one has a 2 as A, but it's no different. Same process. So everybody, here we go. My A value is 2. My B value is negative 11. My C value is 14. Well, multiplies to be A times C. So A times C is 2 times 14, which is 28. Does everybody see what I did? And adds up to be B, which is negative 11. Same thing that we've always been doing. 1 times 28, 2 times 14, right? 4 times 7, 5 times anything. What? Decimal 5, 6, no, 7, and 4. So we've already listed those. So which one's out to be negative 11? Not 1 and 28. 4 and 7, but it needs to be negative 11. Don't both those have to be negative? Well, let's check. Is negative times a negative positive? Yep, we're all good then. Negative 4 minus 7. And remember, these are really V's. So let's put V's on them. Drop and break. Here we go. Drop, drop. 2V squared, positive 14. Break. Rewrite that middle term as those two bad boys. Minus 4V minus 7V. We're to our 4 terms, so we factor by grouping at this point. Group those two bad boys, those two, and then look at each group. The greatest thing in common here is 2 and V. Right? Yeah. Okay, write it. 2V. Now, some of you are getting lazy and not doing what I'm doing and writing divided by, so you're getting them wrong. 2 and 2 divide out. V squared and V become V. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. V over V is 1. Now focus on this group. The greatest thing in common is a 7 and there's a negative, so we'll actually factor out negative 7. Some of you aren't doing this step, right? Divide by negative 7. So then negative divided by negative is positive V. Positive 14 divided by negative 7 is negative 2. Q, our safe haven is the same, so I know I've done it right. So I factored out that V minus 2. Then divide by V minus 2, divide by V minus 2. So then those divide out, leaving me with 2V. Those divide out, leaving me with minus 7. Degree 1, degree 1, so I know I'm done. Not any, it was the exact same thing. Like, okay. Continuing with those ones, and then go to number 3, this number 3. There's 2 ways to do this. There's the long way, which will be fine, and then there's a little bit easier way. So what I would do is say, okay, looking at this, it's a quadratic, yes, but there is something in common to begin with. Isn't there a 3? Doesn't all terms divide by 3? Yeah. So let's first factor out a 3, everybody. Let's pull out a 3, so write in your parentheses. Go back, divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. Well, no, so here's the thing. All of our other quadratics didn't have something originally that could factor out. Like, remember back to, like, for example, do you see how this one, like, see how 2 didn't factor out here? So we couldn't do it. Does that make sense? Everybody, that was a really good question. So in this one, even though there's a 2 in front, we would say, well, 11 doesn't divide by 2, so we just go about it. Our business. Okay. So now left right here is x squared. Now 60 divided by 3, 20. So this becomes 20 plus 20x. And then 300 divided by 3 is 100. So plus 100. Now you're not done because we have a quadratic, so we have to still see if that quadratic factors. So we're going to ignore 3, pretend like it's not there, and just put it in our final answer because it is there, but we're going to ignore it. Ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. So now we're going to say my A value is 1, my B value is 20, my C value is 100. What multiplies to be A times C and adds up to be B? What multiplies to be 1 times 100 is 100 and adds up to be 20. Now let's just think of this one right off the bat without listing out all of them, because 100 has quite a few factors. Can anyone see?
10 and 10.
10 and 10. So smart. 10 times 10. Aren't those going to be the ones that add up to be 20?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to drop and break, ignoring the 3. Just pretend it's not there. Drop. X squared, positive 100, break. Don't forget that those have x's technically, right?
Yeah.
Plus 10x plus 10x. Now we factor by grouping, group v group, group v group. Factor on that group, what's in common? X. So then go back, divide by x, divide by x. So left is x plus 10. Now focus on this group. 10's in common, positive 10. Divide by 10, divide by 10. So then left is x plus 10. See what I mean? 10's divide out, x. And then 100 divided by 10 is 10. Look, our safe haven's the same. So factor out x plus 10. Now go back, divide by x plus 10, divide by x plus 10. Those divide out, so left is a x. Those divide out. So positive 10 is left. That's our answer, but we just can't forget about the 3 we ignored for a minute. Yeah, it wasn't bad, right? Okay, go to number 10. Okay, so we have x squared minus 49. Can we factor out an x here? Not quite, because if it did have an x over here, we would factor out an x, but it doesn't. So you'd say, dang nabbit, we gotta go about it the long way. Well, so isn't this, now we have to actually think really carefully about this. It's no different, but isn't this just x squared and then there's 0 x's, correct? So write that, plus 0x minus 49, and now it's the same process. So our a value is 1, my b value is 0, my c value is negative 49. Everybody good? What multiplies to be a times c? What multiplies to be negative 49? A times c. And adds up to be b. b is 0. Does everybody see how it's no different though? Okay. Negative 49. 1 times 49 and 7 times 7. Which one's out to be 0? 7 and 7. One of them would have to be negative. Which works, because negative 7 times positive 7 is negative 49. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. So those are our factors. So we drop, and we break. So drop down x squared. Drop down negative 49. And then rewrite 0x as negative 7x plus 7x. Then we group, factor out the thing in common, which is x, divide by x, x minus 7. Are we all seeing this? Am I going too fast?
Now you're good.
You're sure? Okay. Once again, so we're factoring out the greatest thing in common. So there's an x in each of those, so we put it out. Then to see what's left over, divide by x on each. So x minus 7, because x squared and x divide out to be x. X is divided out minus 7. We're not done, right? We have to look at this group. What's the greatest thing in common here?
7.
Good. Positive 7. Now divide by 7. So let's look. 7 over 7 is 1, so x is left.
Yeah.
Negative 49 divided by 7 is negative 7. Look, our safe haven's the same, so we've done it right. So factor out the x minus 7. So it divides out, doesn't it, essentially? Because we would go back and divide by x minus 7. You get what I did?
Yeah.
Divide by x minus 7. So then left here is an x. Left here is positive 7. And we're done. Because it's linear factors. Okay, awesome. So these are the ones you're going to finish up. 5, 6, and 7. Oh, don't do 5, 6, or 7. What the? All right, just finish all of them. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, any one on there you should be able to do at this point. Yeah, and then just turn it in.